The key turned in the lock with a click that echoed like a gunshot in the empty house. And I froze, heart slamming against my ribs as the door to the hidden room swung open on silent hinges. Dust motes danced in the sliver of light from the hallway, revealing shelves crammed with secrets that weren't mine to find, letters bound in faded ribbons, photographs of faces I half recognized from neighborhood whispers, and at the center, a single cat's collar, embroidered with whiskers, stained with what looked like dried blood. "Cameron," a voice called from the front door, soft and laced with panic. But it was too late. The lies were spilling out like the shadows swallowing the room. And I knew, in that gut-wrenching instant, that watching Lila's cat had just unraveled everything. I never meant to snoop. God, if you could have seen me that first week in Willow Creek, me, Cameron Hayes, 28 and freshly transplanted from the concrete jungle of Seattle to this picture-perfect suburb in upstate New York, where the houses looked like they belonged on a postcard and the air smelled like fresh-cut grass and quiet desperation. I was just trying to start over. Mike, Jordan, had torched our 5-year thing in a blaze of infidelity that left me couch surfing with friends until I scraped together enough for the down payment on this cozy craftsman bungalow. It was supposed to be my fresh slate, freelance graphic design gigs from the sun-drenched breakfast nook, morning jogs along the Hudson River Trail, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to figure out who I was without someone else's baggage weighing me down. That's when I met Lila Voss. She lived next door, in a Victorian charmer with ivy crawling up the eaves like possessive fingers, the kind of place that screamed old money and quiet elegance. I spotted her first on a drizzly Saturday morning, wrestling a ladder against the maple tree in her front yard, her auburn hair tied back in a loose chignon that let a few strands escape like whispers of rebellion. She was 35. Or so the neighborhood grapevine later informed me, divorced, no kids, some vague, consulting job that kept her traveling. But up close, she was magnetic, porcelain skin that glowed even under the gray sky, blue eyes sharp as cut glass, and a laugh that bubbled up low and throaty when she caught me staring from my porch, coffee mug halfway to my lips. "Caught you," she said, descending the ladder with the grace of someone who'd rehearsed the move 1,000 times. She held out a wicker basket overflowing with heirloom tomatoes from her garden, the kind that were too perfect to be real. "I'm Lila. And you must be the new neighbor everyone's buzzing about. Cameron, right? The one who designs those killer album covers." I blinked, heat creeping up my neck. How the hell did she know that? Guilty. And yeah, that's me, trying not to kill the vibe by mowing at dawn. I took the basket, our fingers brushing just long enough to send a spark up my arm. She smelled like lavender and rain-soaked earth, the kind of scent that lingers and makes you forget your own name. From there, it snowballed in that effortless, small-town way that felt anything but small to me. We'd bump into each other at the farmer's market on Sundays, her in flowing linen dresses that hugged her slender frame just right, me in my usual jeans and band tees, pretending I wasn't stealing glances at the way her collarbone dipped like an invitation. She'd invite me over for wine on her wraparound porch, the two of us sprawled on Adirondack chairs as whiskers, her sleek black Siamese wove figure eights around our ankles. "He's a tyrant," Lila would say, scratching behind his ears until he purred like a diesel engine. "But he keeps the ghosts at bay." Ghosts. She'd drop words like that casually, her gaze drifting to the horizon where the river met the hills, and I'd wonder what shadows haunted a woman who seemed so utterly composed. Over glasses of Napa Valley Cabernet, she'd share snippets, growing up in Boston Brahmin circles, a marriage to a Wall Street shark that crashed and burned 5 years ago, the freedom of starting over in Willow Creek, It's liberating, isn't it? She'd say, her foot nudging mine under the table. Accidental on purpose. Shedding the skin that doesn't fit anymore. I felt it too, the pull. Electric and terrifying. I'd been out since college. But after Jordan's betrayal with her work wife, as if that made it less gutting, I'd sworn off the dance. Yet with Lila, it was different. She'd lean in close when she laughed at my dumb jokes about Seattle hipsters, her breath warm against my cheek, and I'd catch myself imagining what her lips would feel like. Soft and insistent. One night, after too much Pinot and a playlist of Joni Mitchell crooning about circles, she traced a finger along the tattoo on my wrist, a delicate line of script reading Wanderlust, and murmured, "This suits you." Restless soul. By the end of the month, the flirtation had teeth. We'd steal kisses in her kitchen while pretending to bake scones. Her hands flour-dusted and sure as they cupped my face, pulling me into a slow burn that left me breathless. "I've wanted this since the tomatoes," she confessed one evening, her robe slipping open just enough to reveal the curve of her breast, pale and freckled like mine. We tumbled into her bed that night, sheets tangled and bodies sinking in a rhythm that felt like coming home. Lila was all silk and fire, gentle explorations turning fierce, her nails raking down my back as she whispered my name like a prayer. "Cameron," she'd gasp, arching beneath me. "You're unraveling me." And God, I was unraveling too. Mornings after, we'd linger over coffee in her sunlit conservatory, whiskers batting at the steam rising from our mugs, and talk about futures that blurred the lines between our houses. "Stay tonight," she'd say, not asking. Every night, it was romantic, heady, the kind of love that poets bleed for, humanistic in its raw vulnerability. Two women piecing themselves together amid the wreckage of past hurts. Then came the trip. Lila's consulting gig. A high-stakes merger in Chicago meant a week away. And Whiskers, with his imperious stare and finicky palate, couldn't be boarded. "Please, Cam, you're a natural with him." She batted those lashes over her espresso dark coffee. And how could I say no? The house key was warm in my palm as she pressed it there, her kiss lingering like a promise. "Water the orchids too. And snoop if you want. No secrets here." She winked, but her eyes flickered, just for a second, like a shadow crossing the sun. The first night alone in her house felt like trespassing in Eden. Whiskers shadowed me everywhere, his blue eyes judgmental as I portioned out his gourmet kibble. The place was a shrine to her tastes. Mid-century modern furniture polished to a gleam, walls lined with abstract oils and moody blues, and that faint lavender scent clinging to everything. I crashed on her couch, a dog-eared copy of The Bell Jar in hand, half expecting her to materialize and pull me into another lazy make-out session. By day 3, boredom and a creeping curiosity set in. I'd explored the garden, deadhead the roses she babbied like children, but the upstairs hallway nagged at me. There was a door, narrow and paneled to blend with the wainscoting, that I'd assumed was a closet. But on a whim, while Whiskers napped in a sunbeam, I jiggled the handle. Locked. A spare key ring from the kitchen drawer yielded nothing until I tried a tiny brass one labeled pantry, rarely used. Click. The door creaked open to a narrow staircase descending into darkness, the air thick with must and something metallic. My phone's flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing stone walls and exposed beams, a root cellar, maybe, or wine storage. But no bottles lined the racks. Instead, shelves sagged under cardboard boxes, Labeled in Lila's elegant script, Boston '08. Letters unsent. Photos do not open. Heart pounding. I told myself to back out. To respect the boundary she'd drawn with that teasing no secrets line. But the collar Whisker's old one, from before she adopted him, lay on a workbench, crusted with that dark stain. Blood? Or rust? Picked it up. The leather soft and accusing. And that's when the first lie cracked open. Tucked beneath it was a Polaroid, Lila. Younger. Radiant in a white sundress. Arms wrapped around a woman who looked eerily like me, curly hair. Green eyes. That same restless tilt to the shoulders. On the back, in faded ink, Evelyn. My heart's thief. Forever yours. Elle. Evelyn. Not the ex-husband she'd mentioned in passing. And the date 15 years ago. My stomach twisted as I rifled deeper, pulling out a bundle of letters tied with twine. The top one, addressed to my dearest Eve, spilled out in Lila's hand. I can't keep pretending with Richard. Last night, when you kissed me in the boathouse, it was like breathing for the first time. But he suspects. We have to run. Run. From what? I sank onto a crate, the beam of light trembling in my grip, as the pieces clattered into place. Lila hadn't just divorced a man. She built a life on the ashes of a love that society, or her family, had deemed unacceptable. Boston Brahmins didn't do scandals, especially not ones involving two women stealing moments in shadows. Evelyn must have been her first. The one who got away. Or worse, didn't get away. And me? Was I just a ghost of her? A stand-in for the woman who'd stolen her heart and vanished? The hook lodged deeper that night, sleep evading me as whiskers curled against my chest, purring obliviously. I dreamed of boathouses and unsent letters, waking to the patter of rain on the roof and a resolve hardening in my chest. Tomorrow, I'd confront the boxes. Tomorrow, I'd unearth the full truth. But as dawn broke gray and unforgiving, a text buzzed from Lila. Miss you already. Home soon. Love. Elle. Love. The word tasted like ash now, and I wondered if Willow Creek's perfect facade hid more rot than I could stomach. The rain didn't let up, turning the Victorian into a cocoon of drips and echoes, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. I spent the morning pacing the hidden room's confines, the air growing stuffier with each revelation I unearthed. The boxes weren't just mementos, they were a goddamn archive of a life Lila had buried deeper than this cellar. Boston '08 held ticket stubs from underground jazz clubs, napkins scrawled with Evelyn's poetry. Your touch is the revolution I never knew I craved, and a crumpled engagement ring receipt from Tiffany's, dated 2 weeks after the boathouse kiss. Richard, the shark, had been the fix, the societal band-aid for a wound that wouldn't heal. Deeper still, in letters unsent, the pain bloomed raw and unrelenting. Page after page chronicled the unraveling, Evelyn's abrupt departure to California after a family intervention, Lila's descent into a loveless marriage that produced no heirs but plenty of bruises, emotional ones, mostly, but one letter hinted at physical, too. He found the photo of us at the Cape, she wrote to no one. Smashed the frame. Called me unnatural. I laughed in his face. But God. It hurt. When are you coming back? The letters trailed off after the wedding, replaced by therapy journals filled with entries like, Today I told the doctor about the dreams. She says it's grief. I say it's you. Grief. That word clawed at me as I traced the faded ink, imagining Lila at 20, fierce and unbroken, choosing duty over desire because that's what good girls from old families did. And Evelyn me. But not. The resemblance wasn't coincidence. I'd seen it in the mirror that first night we hooked up. The way Lila's eyes softened when she looked at me. Like she was seeing double. Was that why she'd pounced so fast? Why the intensity felt like drowning in devotion? I slammed the box shut. Dust billowing like smoke. And stormed upstairs. Whiskers trailing with a meow that sounded almost accusatory. By afternoon, the freelance deadlines I'd ignored were screaming from my laptop. But focus was a joke. Instead, I baked Lila's scone recipe. The one we'd mangled together in a flower fight that ended with her pinning me against the counter. Lips tasting of butter and want. The oven's warmth did little to thaw the chills settling in my bones. Betrayal? Maybe not yet. But omission was its crueler cousin. She'd painted her past in broad, safe strokes: divorce, reinvention, leaving out the queer heart of it all. The woman who'd shaped her into the elegant enigma I loved. Love. Shit. When had that happened? I flipped the scones too hard. One crumbling like my resolve. And that's when the front door rattled. Not Lila, too early for her flight. A delivery truck. Probably. But paranoia had me creeping to the window. Peering through rain-streaked glass. No one. Just the empty street. Maples bowing under the downpour. I shook it off. Or tried to. Burying myself in emails until evening fell like a curtain. That night, emboldened by a glass or three of her scotch, I tackled photos do not open. The warning was laughable now. Envelopes burst with glossies. Lila and Evelyn at proms. Beaches. Stolen embraces in library stacks. Evelyn was me reborn, same curls, same defiant chin, but softer around the edges. Her smile wide and unscarred. One photo gutted me. The two of them on a sailboat. Wind whipped and laughing. Lila's head on Evelyn's shoulder. A silver locket glinting at her throat. I touched it. Memory flashing to the identical one Lila wore now. Tucked beneath her blouse like a talisman. At the envelope's bottom lay the kicker. A newspaper clipping. Brittle and yellowed. From the Boston Globe. 2010. Tragic drowning claims life of local heiress. Evelyn Hargrove. 22. Lost at sea during a solo yacht trip off Cape Cod. No foul play suspected. But the article lingered on her reclusive tendencies post-family rift. Quoting a source. She was troubled. Always chasing shadows. Shadows. The word echoed Lila's offhand remark about Whiskers. And suddenly the cat's name clicked. Whiskers had been Evelyn's. A gift from her grandmother. Adopted by Lila after the funeral as a lifeline to the lost. Tears pricked hot and unbidden as I pieced it. Evelyn hadn't run, she'd been pushed. By expectations. By fear. Until the ocean claimed her in a final, desperate bid for peace. And Lila? She'd married Richard months later. A penance or a prison. Birthing a life of elegant lies to survive the grief. The locket. The letters. The hidden room, they weren't relics. They were her vigil. A shrine to the love society had drowned. I curled up on the cellar floor that night. The clipping clutched to my chest. Sobs racking me for a woman I'd never met and the one who'd stitched her wounds with half-truths. Whiskers found me there at dawn. Nudging my cheek with his cold nose. As if to say, get up. Human. The living need you. By the time Lila's key scraped in the lock that afternoon, I'd tidied the chaos, boxes resealed, photos buried, but the evidence lingered in my red-rimmed eyes and the tremor in my hands. Cameron. Her voice was honey and exhaustion as she dropped her suitcase in the foyer, Whiskers launching into her arms with a yowl. She looked travel-worn but radiant, auburn waves tousled, blue eyes lighting up when she saw me. God, I missed you. She crossed the space in 3 strides, pulling me into a kiss that tasted of airport coffee and homecoming, her body molding to mine like it belonged there. I let it happen, sinking into the familiarity, but the dam cracked mid-embrace. Lila, I murmured against her lips. We need to talk. Her face shuddered. That flicker again. But she played it cool, steering us to the kitchen with a bottle of chilled rose. Chicago was a beast, endless meetings. Schmoozing sharks worse than Richard. Keyboard. Clinking glasses. But her smile didn't reach her eyes. Whiskers, behave. Or did he stage a coup? He's fine, I said, voice steadier than I felt. But I found something. The door under the stairs. The glass paused halfway to her mouth, rose sloshing pink against the crystal. Ah, 1 syllable. Heavy as an anchor. She set it down, fingers drumming the counter, a tell I'd learned in our pillow talk confessions. I should have told you about the key. It's just storage. Old junk from the boathouse. Cut in. Sharper than intended. Evelyn. The color drained from her face, leaving her porcelain stark against the flush creeping up her neck. She sank onto a bar stool, elegant even in collapse, and for a moment, the room held its breath. How much did you read? Enough. I slid the clipping across the marble, watching her hands tremble as she unfolded it. Why didn't you tell me that she was your everything? That I'm her echo. Her laugh was bitter, a shard of glass in the quiet. Because it's not fair to you, Cam. Evelyn was lightning bright, consuming, gone in a flash. You? You're sunlight. Steady. Real. Tears welled, but she blinked them back. Ever the composed Voss. I locked it away because opening it means admitting I failed her. That I let them win. Them. The family. The expectations. The America that preached liberty but chained its daughters to heteronormative altars. We talked or unraveled for hours, wine forgotten as she spilled the flood, the forbidden summers with Evelyn, the intervention where her father called it a phase, Richard's proposal as a mercy killing of her soul. I thought marrying him would fix it, she whispered, head in her hands. But it just buried me alive. When Eve drowned, I wanted to follow. Whiskers was all that kept me from it. The confession hung between us, raw and humanistic in its ache, a testament to love's loss to silence, to the quiet violence of not being enough. I reached for her then, pulling her close, our foreheads touching as sobs shook her frame. You're not buried anymore, I said, fierce and certain. Not with me. That night, we made love in the conservatory, rain lashing the glass like applause, bodies entwined in a reclaiming. She was tender, reverent, mapping my skin as if to overwrite the ghosts. I love you. Cameron Hayes, she breathed, fingers laced with mine. Not because you remind me of her. Because you're you. Dawn brought fragile peace, sunlight filtering through the orchids we'd neglected, casting rainbows on the floor. We breakfasted on cold scones, planning therapy for her. A weekend away for us, maybe Provincetown, where queer love bloomed unchecked. No more hidden rooms, she promised, kissing my knuckles. Just us. But as I dressed for my jog, Phone buzzing with a client fire drill. A knock shattered the idyll. The door swung open to a man in a rumpled trench coat. Mid-40s. Salt and pepper hair and eyes like chipped flint. Lila Voss. His voice was gravel. Badge flashing NYPD. We need to talk about Evelyn Hargrove. The detective, Hank Riley. He introduced himself with a handshake that crushed like judgment, stood dripping in the foyer, oblivious to the bomb he just lobbed into our fragile morning. Lila went white as bone china, her hand finding mine in a grip that bordered on painful. Evelyn's been dead 15 years, she said. Voice a threadbare veil over panic. What could you possibly? New evidence, Riley cut in, shaking out his coat like a dog. Water pooled at his feet, seeping into the Persian rug. Anonymous tip. Says the drowning wasn't suicide. And your name came up in connection. He glanced at me, praising. Mind if we sit? This'll take a minute. We migrated to the living room, whiskers hissing from atop the mantel like a furry sentinel. I brewed coffee on autopilot, the domesticity a stark counterpoint to the dread coiling in my gut. Riley flipped open a battered notebook, his pen scratching like claws. MS. Hargrove's yacht log showed erratic behavior last week's. Frequent calls to a burner phone registered to you. Fuss. And witnesses from the Cape. Arguments with family. Mentions of running away together. Lila's laugh cracked like ice. We were kids in love. Detective. Forbidden. Sure, two girls from old families. You know how that goes. But I didn't kill her. I loved her. The word hung, accusatory in the sunlight. Riley leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Love makes people do desperate things. Like marrying the family lawyer to cover tracks. He slid a photo across the coffee table, not a Polaroid, but a crime scene shot. Evelyn's boat bobbing forlornly. A rope frayed suspicious. Forensics missed it back then, budget cuts. Small town PD. But now, that rope was cut. Not worn. Someone wanted it to look like an accident. My stomach lurched. Cut. The word evoked the letters. The unsent pleas. Lila's journals of despair. Had grief twisted into something darker? No, impossible. But doubt wormed in, fed by the hidden room's shadows. Lila's face crumpled, tears carving tracks down her cheeks. I was in Boston that weekend. Wedding planning with Richard. Alibis. Checks, ask anyone. We will. Riley snapped his notebook shut, standing with a creak of leather. Don't leave town. Fuss. This isn't over. He nodded at me, Cameron, the outsider, the echo, and let himself out, the door clicking like a gavel. Silence swallowed us. Lila curled into the couch, knees to chest, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Cam, she whispered. You believe me, right? I'd never. I knelt before her, thumbs brushing her tears. But the words stuck. I want to. I do. But the room. All those secrets. What else is there? Her flinch was visceral. Nothing. I swear. But her eyes darted to the stairs. And in that betrayal of body language, the conflict ignited. We argued then, lacerating words flung like shrapnel. You built a museum to her down there, I shouted, pacing the room. And now this? It's like Evelyn's haunting us, pulling you back. She's not. Lila surged up, auburn hair wild. You think I wanted this? To drag her ghost into what we have. Her voice broke. Humanistic fury in every tremor. I hid it because loving you terrifies me. Cam. After Eve. After Richard's fists when he found out. Yeah. Fists. Not just words, I promise myself no more half-lives. But you. You make me believe in whole ones. Fists. The scar on her collarbone flashed in memory, and guilt twisted the knife. Richard hadn't just been a shark. He'd been a monster, beating the queerness out of her until she broke free in divorce court. NDA and all. I'm sorry, I choked, pulling her close. The lies. Lila. They choked me. We held each other through the afternoon. Rain easing to mist. Apologies weaving into vows. No more hiding, she repeated. Like a mantra. That evening. Together. We gutted the hidden room. Boxes hauled to the backyard fire pit. Letters fed to flames that danced orange against the dusk. Evelyn's photos we kept. Framed as ancestors. Not anchors. The clipping burned last. Ashes scattering on the wind like release. But the specter lingered. Days blurred into a tense limbo. Riley's follow-ups yielding nothing concrete. But whispers rippled through Willow Creek. Old money closing ranks. The Hargrove name a shield against scandal. Lila's consulting dried up. Clients spooked by the headlines. Heiress death revisited. Neighbor of interest. We'd make love with desperate fervor. Her body a map I memorized anew. But dawn brought paranoia. Unmarked cars idling curbside. Anonymous notes slipped under doors. Truth kills. The climax crashed on a Friday. 2 weeks post Riley. I'd run to the market for Lila's favorite brie. Returning to find her front door ajar. Whiskers yowling from within. Panic propelled me inside. Calling her name through the gloom. The living room was chaos. Lamps toppled. Drawers ransacked. A trail of lavender-scented fabric, leading to the conservatory. There she was, Lila. Bound to a wicker chair with her own scarves. Gag biting into her cheek. Blue eyes wild with terror. And looming over her. Richard, ex-husband. Architect of bruises. His face a mask of vindictive glee. Salt and pepper gone fully gray. Paunch straining his Brooks Brothers shirt. The doppelganger, he sneered. Spotting me. A pistol glinted in his grip. Cheap and ominous. Evelyn 2.0. Lila always had a type. Richard. Lila's muffled cry tore at me. He backhanded her. Casual as swatting a fly. The crack echoing like my shattering world. Shut it. Dyke. He turned the gun on me. Steady despite the tremor in his jowls. This is cleanup. That tip to the cops? Mine. Been waiting years to bury her secrets for good. Betrayal layered upon betrayal, Richard. Not Riley. The puppet master. He'd never let go. Nursing grudges in some Manhattan high-rise. Tipped off by neighborhood busybodies about the new girl next door. The merger in Chicago? A ruse to isolate her. The ransacking? Hunting the locket. The last proof of her unnatural loves. Drop it, I said. Voice steel despite the quake in my knees. No weapon. Just me, 28. Scrappy Seattle survivor. I edged closer. Eyes locked on his. Channeling every rom-com heroine I'd ever rooted for. You touch her again. And I swear. He laughed. Bitter and broken. Heroics? Cute. But Lila's mine to finish. Always was. The gun swung back to her. finger whitening on the trigger. Time fractured. I lunged, tackling him in a blur of limbs and fury, the pistol skittering across tile. We grappled, his bulk against my agility, grunts and curses filling the air as Lila thrashed free, scarves unraveling. She joined the fray, nails raking his face, a feral scream ripping from her throat. No more! Sirens wailed distant, neighbors alerted by the crash. Richard bucked, fist connecting with my jaw in a burst of stars, but Lila's knee to his groin dropped him wheezing. We pinned him, me on his arm, her wrenching the gun away, until blue lights flooded the windows, uniforms bursting in to cuff the monster who'd haunted her for a decade. In the aftermath, medics checked bruises, statements blurred into shock. Richard confessed in holding, obsession festering into attempted murder, the drowning tip a final gambit to frame her for Evelyn's death, absolving his own complicity in pushing her to despair. I made her straight, he'd ranted to cops. She ruined it. Ruin. The word festered. But as dawn broke on our bloodied Victorian, Lila and I clung to each other on the porch swing, whiskers purring between us, the river a silver thread in the distance. It's over, she whispered, locket glinting at her throat. Evelyn's. Now ours. A bridge, not a burden. Not over, I corrected, kissing her temple, tasting salt and survival. Just beginning. Willow Creek's whispers would fade. We'd sell the houses, move to the Cape, irony be damned, build a life unapologetic, humanistic in its hard-won grace. Love, we'd learn, wasn't lightning or sunlight alone. It was the storm between. Endured together. Months later, under Cape Cod stars, we'd scatter Evelyn's ashes, not in grief, but gratitude. To thieves of hearts, Lila toasted, our fingers entwined. And in that moment, with the sea murmuring forgiveness, I knew the lies had led us here, to a romance fierce and free, as American as reinvention itself.